this is Emily, president of Self Advocates of ADEC and podcast host. Welcome to another episode of our monthly podcast, Expert Tips by ADEC Self Advocates. Welcome back to another Expert Tips by ADEC Self Advocates. I am your host, Emily. Today is the March Madness podcast. Today we got Katie Hertsel.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Glad to see you. Glad to officially meet you.
Yes, you as well, Emily.
Thank you.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
We're talking about how mental health matters. We're going to be navigating stress, feelings, emotions.
Sounds great.
Maybe a little awkward.
Can be awkward sometimes to talk about our feelings, but one thing that we can try to do today is to normalize how we all have feelings and we all have difficulties to overcome.
Yeah, I like that. What do you think are common mental health challenges that people experience, not just with disabilities in general? What do you think is the most common mental health challenge that anyone can experience?
I think it's really common for everyone to struggle with feelings of loneliness and isolation and to experience some generalized anxiety or mild depressive disorders.
Yeah, I tend to have a hard time getting up out of bed sometimes. That's considered like a depressive episode, right?
It can be a symptom of depression, yeah. Finding that motivation to do those tasks of daily living and to find that motivation to get up out of bed could be a sign of depression.
Yeah, I wondered. Here's some fun quotes I wanted to mention. Action absorbs anxiety.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So the busier we are, the more we do, the less anxious we feel. Action absorbs anxiety. I like that.
Yeah. So that's what you took from it.
What did you take from it?
Honestly, though, it makes sense because, when I heard it, I didn't exactly knew what it meant at first.
Yeah, I think the busier we are, the more we surround ourselves with people and become active participants in our community, the less room we have for those intrusive thoughts, for those anxious feelings. So the more we're active, the less that we feel alone or the less that we're focused on our struggles.
And that makes sense. I guess that explains a lot because I have a hard time, moving around a lot sometimes.
Yeah. Like transitioning from place to place or
More like feeling the motivation to, work out.
yeah. Have you ever set goals for yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Does that help you feel more motivated if you have goals that you're working toward?
It can, actually, especially how, people explain what goals can do. Like manifestation.
Yeah.
The word's not motivation, it's meditation.
Oh, yeah. Meditation, so taking time to be aware of your surroundings and being intentional about calming your body.
Yeah, a lot of the time, though, my feelings, emotions, they get a little too powerful for me sometimes, and I don't really know how to control it.
Have you heard of coping strategies? So sometimes they're called coping strategies or sometimes they're called coping skills. Do you have any that you know of?
I like to listen to music a lot.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Music is a huge thing for me. It's something about lyrics that really hit really hard.
What kind of music do you like to listen to? Is it happy and upbeat or is it sometimes sad and emotional? Or does it depend on your mood?
Sometimes it depends on my mood, but lately I've been really liking listening to sad or angry music, like something edgy.
So sometimes edgy music can be a good thing. It can help us feel less alone if we find lyrics or a message in a song that we relate to. but sometimes it can keep us stuck in those feelings of anger or those feelings of sadness. So it's important to be intentional about adding variety to the various forms of media we consume, whether that's music or TV shows. If we tend to consume sad and angry music, it's likely we're going to feel sad and angry more of the time. Where if we consume a lot of happy, positive, upbeat music, it might change our mood and affect how we approach our day.
That makes sense. I've heard that from my parents, actually. Like how whatever you consume, it those specific emotions can consume you. Like how it influences you. And I never really fully understood how like what you consume, like what you listen to, what you see. I didn't fully understand how it could influence you in the way you think.
Yeah.
How do you think people can effectively cope with stress and anxiety?
I would say don't underestimate the importance of healthy habits. So things like getting enough sleep, spending time outside when you can, especially now that March is here and the weather's getting nicer, being intentional about soaking up that sun. And I would also say to limit some screen time. We're in an era where
Yeah.
it's really tempting to scroll on our phones and get stuck on social media and compare our lifestyle to other people's lifestyles. Um, so limiting screen time and focusing on being present, I think, is important.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's something that I had to learn at a young age. Something that I continue just to struggle with, but like I also like continue thinking and feeling.
Definitely. And social media can be a great outlet, a great way to reach people like this podcast. And, as long as we're intentional about what we're consuming and for how long we're consuming it for,
Right.
everything's okay in moderation. So, to reference the quote you mentioned earlier about activity absorbing anxiety, another way to cope with stress and anxiety is to engage in hobbies or activities that you really enjoy, especially creative outlets. So, this might be like diamond art or crocheting or painting, where you're creating something. Another way that people can cope with stress and anxiety is, and I think we mentioned it earlier, those manifesting or like daily affirmations or
Yeah.
positive self talk. So saying things to ourselves like, I am enough, I can do hard things. Once we hear things or say things enough, we start to believe it.
Yeah.
And so the more we can repeat those positive phrases and concepts, the more it'll start to stick. What is a positive affirmation that you like to say to yourself every day?
I am beautiful.
I like that one.
Thank
I like to tell myself I get better every single day,
you.
just to remind myself that there's always room to learn and grow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, like I do always gotta like remind myself those positive affirmations. I know I am my own worst enemy, my own worst critic. I
Mm-hmm.
talk about that a lot sometimes. Like I'm in my head a lot.
So when you find yourself stuck in your head, there are strategies or tools you can use to help get yourself out. And so I know you've mentioned mindfulness and meditation. We've talked about positive affirmations. We've talked about being active. Sometimes, though, it is important to recognize when it's time to ask for help. So to think about who can you go to process what you're feeling, to help get you unstuck or get you out of your head. So asking friends or family or even direct support professionals.
And sometimes I just need that reminder. People are there for a reason. People are there. Like you're loved, you're supported. You can talk to other people. Like, are there like strategies you would recommend to improve self esteem for facing mental health challenges?
Yeah, I would recommend to really try to pay attention to your thoughts and try to replace your negative thoughts with positive ones. Also, embrace your imperfections. Celebrate what
Yes.
makes you you. And
Mm-hmm.
practice forgiveness. Sometimes we have an easier time forgiving other people than we do forgiving ourselves. But it's important to recognize that we all make mistakes, but
Mm-hmm.
we can learn from those mistakes, and we all are doing our best to get better every day.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. In what ways do you think, like, therapy or support networks play a crucial role in mental health, like, in general?
I think they're really important. No one functions as an island. We can't live in isolation away from other people. We're meant to connect. And so, working with therapies and working with your support team, it can help provide tools that you need to problem solve, to overcome challenges that you might face. Talking with others can help you understand your feelings and behaviors better. And when we think of behaviors, I'm a behavior consultant. And when people hear the word behavior, they often think it's negative. But behavior is just the choices that we make. It's what we choose to say, how we choose to say it, and what we choose to do or not do. So, being more aware of our behaviors basically is just being more aware of our choices and if our choices are helping us reach our goals or if they're preventing us from reaching our goals. And being able to make those changes to our choices so that you can achieve what you want to achieve. So therapists and support networks, they can help you with those skills, becoming more self-aware, practicing those skills so that you can form meaningful relationships with people around you, helping combat those feelings of isolation and loneliness, and basically just provide more opportunities for people to feel fulfilled within their communities.
I like that. A thing that you talked about in the last question, there is something very, very important in, like, about choosing to try to forgive yourself.
Yes.
Being able to forgive is hard because, like, unfortunately, some people also really guard themselves a lot.
Mhm.
Whether it's other people or me,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just we guard our hearts a lot. I feel like.
Yeah. There was a phrase that was really common in the school system I worked for prior to my employment with ADEC, and it was patience, flexibility, and grace. And it was kind of preached at my colleagues in a way that we got very good at practicing patience, flexibility, and grace with one another. But it's important for us to show those same um, values to ourselves as well. Being patient with ourselves. It
Mm.
takes time to learn new things. Being flexible when our routines change or when we're handling disappointment. And having grace with ourselves to forgive ourselves when we make mistakes. Because at the end of the day, we're all human and we all make mistakes. It's going to happen no matter how hard we try. So having the grace to forgive ourselves when it does happen.
Yeah. So, what are some tips you could give not just our listeners but for anyone to help deal with stress, anxiety, and self-esteem?
So the first one that comes to mind would be to practice gratitude. So to recognize what in your life you're thankful for and to express that to those around you. There's studies that show that our brain gets a release in dopamine when we are expressing gratitude to other people. And so not only does it make the other person feel good when we recognize something they did or say thank you, but it also makes us feel good when we're expressing thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes I feel like behaviors in general or mental health, that kind of stuff, like I feel like it's very stigmatized.
I would agree. There's definitely a stigma surrounding mental health that we shouldn't ask about it, we shouldn't tell about it, we shouldn't talk about it. But actually, the opposite is true, and that the more we talk about it, the more we can get better, and the less afraid people will feel to ask for help when they do need it.
Katie, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been an honor. This has been Expert Tips by ADEC Self Advocates, March Madness Edition. Thanks for tuning in and hearing from your neighbors with disabilities. Check out next month's podcast for a new guest and topic. I am Emily, host of Expert Tips by ADEC Self Advocates. See you next month.